In a world filled with incredible fighters, savage monsters, and unstoppable beasts, meet Baki Hanma, heir to the demon blood passed down by the strongest creature in existence, Yujiro. With new faces such as Pickle and old treasures like Retsu and Katsumi, Baki proves once again why it's the best fighting anime ever made. In a remote part of town, the infamous Hanma Baki was approached by the stern General Stridum. The general was in no mood for games and started quizzing Baki on his National Geographic knowledge. He later revealed how a dinosaur was the most powerful animal and revealed a human who used to fight with them. Baki was left shocked by the evidence they uncovered. A human who existed thousands of years ago, frozen in a cube of ice. The scientists went to work and started researching this amazing specimen. They were told to keep it under wraps, lest the public panic after hearing this incredible news. He then explained how any organism could survive if it was preserved properly. As such, there was a chance to revive this enormous beast. They named him Pickle and tried their best to monitor his organs and nervous system. Even after 3 months, he was still in a deep slumber. The scientist in question decided to play tough guy and cut off part of a T-Rex. As he was cooking his dinosaur steak, the scent allured our big beast and awoke his inner appetite. Gluttony is a powerful sin after all. Pickle was amazed by modern technology. However, there was one thing he was familiar with, and that was the smell of his prey. As he towered above the feeble loser, he stole his dinner and chomped it in one go. The foolish doc tried shooting him, forgetting this man was more powerful than dinosaurs. It only grazed him and turned him into a beast. Even so, all he wanted was food, and couldn't help himself upon seeing his old pal. Soon after, the cops come to apprehend him, and even the feds were involved now, since this was a matter of national security. Just then, the beast in question showed up in the most epic manner imaginable and destroyed everything in sight. The entire army was deployed, and they brought their best men to deal with the matter. They even brought out their latest gear to deal with the caveman. Aren't they going a bit overboard? I'm curious to see who will stand out on top. In a battle between the old warriors versus the new gadgets, the ancient beast has triumphed. This is a humiliation to the United States Army. General Stridum went up to him and started taking off his clothes. He then offered him his hand and broke bread. Soon after, the news outlet started broadcasting Pickle's existence to everyone. This 6.5 feet monster was being escorted by armed guards, and a reporter walked up to him, inducing his sensual lust. In front of everyone watching, the man fulfilled his inner desires on live television. What a savage beast! This guy doesn't even need a room. He even ended up sleeping right then and there. The scientist then started explaining how dinosaurs were exterminated by a meteor strike that left Earth in a desolate situation. Every creature alive was frozen in place, and the scientist tried justifying Pickle's action by informing him how modern society's rules do not apply to this primitive man. However, the people continued to protest and riot, seeking justice for the innocent little reporter. That's when the world's most dangerous creature, Yujiro, stepped up. Meanwhile, Pickle was locked up inside, and Master Retsu decided to infiltrate the base using his stealth abilities. This guy was like a shadow, while Yujiro walked in through the front door. What a monster! His presence alone gave people chills. After cutting through the lock, he made his way inside, while Retsu beat him to the punch. Alas, Doppo Orochi was already hiding inside, while Jack and Shibukawa slithered out. The whole gang reunited, seeking to fight the legendary caveman, Pickle. The man in question got out and met the current champ, Yujiro, who showed everyone why he is still the best. Yujiro walked through the bulletproof glass like it was plastic and used his raw strength to knock Pickle down. Everyone was left in shock, and the army politely asked Yujiro to leave. Imagine being more powerful than the US government. Must be nice, real nice. The following day, Baki was interrogated by a little kid who kept on provoking him to fight Pickle. However, Baki wasn't interested in throwing hands with a caveman and insisted he had his eyes glued on fighting the most dangerous man alive, his father. Talk about a complicated family dynamic. Elsewhere, Pickle was still ruminating about his wild encounter with Yujiro. In all his life, this was the first time he tasted defeat. Meanwhile, Retsu was practicing diligently, proving his unfound strength to the karate newbies. Even Baki was impressed and wanted to learn kung fu from him. However, our boy was head over heels over the caveman. What's with these martial artists and their obsession over an ancient relic? Retsu went on and on about how he wanted to fight Pickle, and later on, Stridum brought the ancient warrior to the battle arena. It seems Pickle hasn't eaten anything in over a month, and all the predators they brought chickened out after seeing him. Since he had to hunt before eating, they ended up pitting him against a tiger who faced no chance against the grips of the monster. Baki was disgusted by this, while Retsu pleaded with Tokugawa to let him fight Pickle. As expected, the old man refused on the spot, seeing as how the loser must forfeit their body and life. Retsu agreed to become a meal if he lost, and they agreed to watch the showdown. The scientist kept on complaining, but he was told to shut it. Just then, Pickle sensed an intimidating aura approaching his way. Who knew Retsu carried his own like that? Pickle struck the first blow, and Retsu countered with a quick kick, knocking the big guy down. Using his technique, he was able to gain the upper hand against the savage man. Despite all the beating he received, Pickle got up and took a bite of our beloved kung fu master. What an atrocious sight. Retsu went back but failed to injure the behemoth and started shedding tears. Pickle stood there swallowing his punches and decided to fight back. However, Retsu managed to block his strikes and experienced an MC moment. Does this guy think he's the protagonist of the show? He fought back and gave Pickle a rude awakening, laying him flat on his stomach. The crowd were astonished by the unprecedented turn of events. However, the scientist told them Pickle wasn't done, not by a long shot. He tried explaining how his bones and muscles were inhumane, granting Pickle supernatural strength. Retsu went at it again, but Pickle was ready for the smoke this time around. Using a stance similar to a wild beast, Pickle was ready to launch at him like a mission. Instead of cowering in fear, Retsu decided to stand his ground. However, the speed of this cave monster was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Just like that, Pickle started crying while slowly walking to his meal. Tokugawa tried stopping Pickle. However, he was slapped around by the hungry maniac ready to chomp on his loot. Luckily, the scientist saved Retsu from imminent death, even though he lost his right leg. This caused Retsu to feel dishonored, since he broke his side of the vow. Baki came to visit our ignoble kung fu master, who kept on complaining about losing. Did he really expect to defeat someone capable of fighting dinosaurs? What a crazy fool. To make matters worse, Baki was not sugarcoating anything either. Do you think he has a chance against Pickle, though? Later on, Baki walked back home feeling the jitters. Elsewhere, Doppo Orochi was demonstrating his outstanding martial arts skills to his students. He then received a call from Tokugawa asking him to deal with Pickle's situation. His son, Katsumi, came in to receive a bombshell of a news. They were all in a state of disbelief, and all the fighters received the report. Pickle, on the other hand, went out to town dressed like a foreigner. The caveman must be excited to be in the new world. Buses had no effect on him, and he toyed with the trucks like they were Lego toys. Meanwhile, Katsumi was training like hell in preparation for his fight. He was stuck thinking about the caveman and decided to organize a search party to look for the wanted man. These guys are really obsessed over a primitive beast, huh? Elsewhere, Orochi came to stop his son before making a foolish mistake. However, Hanayama came to test Pickle's grip strength, while Katsumi defeated his own father. Afterward, Pickle started beating everyone up until he met his old training partner. Even though Hanayama seemed small, he was as powerful as a triceratops. How is that even possible? Just then, Baki showed up and started complimenting Pickle's posture. He believed his body was the ideal figure for a perfect fighter. Now this is getting a bit weird. Pickle offered Baki a fist bump and used Yujiro's technique on him. This led Baki to kick the big guy, and after Katsumi showed up, they were nowhere to be seen. After all he's done, he lost the loot. His guys tried cheering him up, and this caused him to act like a deranged maniac. Pickle, on the other hand, took Baki to the arena, and Tokugawa told him to prepare. Hanayama downplayed the fight since Pickle was not at his best. However, with a single kick, he sent Baki flying and started dancing like a victorious champion. Katsumi was still practicing and honing his skills when Retsu walked in to stop him from committing another huge mistake. First Orochi, now Retsu. Everyone is trying to warn this karate master from engaging in battle. Even so, Retsu saw through his lies and told him to admit the real reason he wants to fight Pickle, and that's simply for honor and nothing else. As such, Retsu decided to teach him the secrets of Kung Fu in order to avenge him. Would you look at that? Kung Fu meets karate in the dojo. Elsewhere, Yujiro was giving Tokugawa a hard time while Baki kept on reminiscing about the thrashing he received. They were all impressed by Pickle's strength, and who could blame them? Retsu, however, was giving Katsumi a tedious lecture on how to throw a proper punch. How's he going to let a grown man treat him like a child? Does Katsumi have no honor? Even so, Retsu was hell-bent on getting his revenge. Pickle, however, was sound asleep after being drugged. Did they really have to go to such extreme measures? The man looks jacked, though. Baki, on the other hand, was feeling quite desperate.
I'm gonna let loose with...
While Katsumi and Retsu were studying ways of surpassing supersonic speeds, he brought out a whip and tried imitating its movements. Are these guys seriously discussing of surpassing the speed of sound? Is this a Dragon Ball movie or something? Their explanations sounded quite convincing, and here I am believing the infinite potential of human beings. Just then, the reigning Kung Fu champion, Kaku, came to impart his knowledge upon them. He sliced an egg like butter using his hands and told them how he achieved supersonic speeds at his age. Do my eyes fool me? Humans punching at the speed of sound? Well, this is Baki. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. It's funny watching Retsu stuff his face while Katsumi is preparing to avenge his honor. Fortunately for him, he managed to achieve the supersonic speed. What a killer move. The following day, Katsumi was warming up for the fight and met his mother along the way. Let's hope he doesn't get eaten in front of his parents. In a flashback, we saw how Orochi scouted Katsumi inside a circus after he was impressed by his talents. He then wrapped his belt and walked into the arena where he met Baki all bloody and Orochi, looking stern as always. This entire scene feels creepy, to be honest. Just then, the entire audience cheered our boy on and rattled him to the nerve. This feels like quite the exhilarating moment, to be honest. Once Pickle was set out, he was given another rude awakening by the karate master. The battle seemed one-sided with Katsumi dominating the caveman. Even so, Pickle wasn't fazed and kicked him to the ground. This battle reminded him of the good old days, when he ate T-Rexes for fun. He only ate creatures that attacked him and held a stance similar to Yujiro. Katsumi then used his supersonic punch and left Pickle gasping for air, something he hasn't felt in years. However, the consequence of using this move was detrimental on Katsumi's body. Even though he was able to punch beyond the speed of sound, it didn't imply his body could handle it. And thus, Katsumi fell to the ground. The scientist tried explaining the logic behind it, but Pickle was beyond the system of science. What a turn of events. Pickle subsequently held his famous position and was ready to launch into action. Katsumi was ready to destroy his body if it meant certain victory, and prepared to unleash his secret move. He mimicked the whip and used his body to unleash hell. What a tragic outcome. He rejoiced his victory and left the crowd shocked to their core. As they cheered him on and lit up the arena, Katsumi noticed how Pickle was only asleep. They deduced he was no longer an opponent, and Pickle started shedding tears for him. Soon after, he ripped off his arm and proceeded to honor the deal. However, Tokugawa broke the promise and decided to tranquilize Pickle, but Orochi wasn't going to let that slide since he believed it would dishonor Katsumi's name and face. Assuming he has one left after Pickle is done with him, of course, but you'd be surprised if I told you Pickle showed him mercy. After countless years of struggle, agony, and suffering, the wild beast finally understood what it meant to be human. He not only grieved the downfall of his enemy, but he was also able to empathize with his pain and express his heartfelt gratitude. For once in his miserable existence, Pickle was able to transcend the limitations of his ignorance and tapped into a powerful source, one humanity have been safeguarding all these years. As he withdrew from the battle, all the members of the dojo saluted their heroic champion. Despite his agonizing defeat, Katsumi was ushered out with honor and pride. Retsu visited him in the hospital to show his gratitude and was in turn praised by Katsumi. However, Baki had to butt in and ruin their moment in a typical Hanma fashion. Classic Yujiro, am I right? He even did the signature move like father, like son, I guess. Speak of the devil and he shall arrive. There is, the most dangerous creature on earth. To him, everything was a prey and the world was his oyster. He then ran into Orochi, who was willing to buy him a drink, but even then, Yujiro just had to show off. This man is simply waiting for an opportunity to flex. I mean, seriously, every scene he is in, he has to do something as bizarre as breaking a bottle with his hands. Is he starving for more screen time? Well, at least he has more feats and appearances than Shanks. Don't even get me started on him. Elsewhere, Baki was undergoing intense training, fighting an imaginary shadow. Yup, they're all crazy, I tell you. Call it Looney Tunes in real life. There goes another loony imbecile, Jack Hanma, the human steroid. Jack drugged himself to the extent where he transformed into a walking monster, and now he was able to stand toe-to-toe, or I mean tooth-to-tooth, with the savage beast. Jack started bragging about his biting power and challenged him to an open-mouth contestant. Now that I hear myself, it sounds quite wrong to say that. Two men using their mouth to dominate one another. I mean, who the hell writes these kinds of scenes? This is just insane. I can't show you the whole scene since YouTube would flag it, but trust you me, Pickle actually won the biting competition, and yes, it was exactly what it sounds like. They then continued battling like Vikings, but Jack was in a state of disbelief regarding Pickle's unbeatable body. His anatomy was inhumane and his abilities supernatural. This man was a walking tank and unleashed his fury upon Jack, who swatted away his efforts. It seems all the doping and success turned Jack into a humanoid robot. His entire life training and growing, all to one day prove the power of the future. However, the past came knocking and was ready for the smoke. Literally, since the arena was getting foggy from all the attacks. Pickle was ready to prove once and for all, ancient humans were stronger than modern civilization and science. With a flurry of attacks, he juggled our dear machine and started dancing his consumption ritual. Before taking a bite, he saw a nasty vision and remembered his past with poisonous bugs, who showed him hell before almost killing him. This taught him to watch out for dangerous animals and thus refused to eat the lifeless Jack. Baki was confused by this, and Tokugawa almost had his brains fried if it wasn't for his height. You see, short people do have good luck. Why do you think leprechauns are short, huh? I digress. Jack was then treated at the hospital, however. He ran back to the arena and started pummeling Pickle. Is this guy truly a fighting machine? Even Pickle was running away since this was nothing like he faced before. A man who refused to die and give up, but this angered Pickle, who went back to teach Jack a lesson. Afterward, he ended up in the hospital again, where Tokugawa warned him not to make any moves. Is this guy really indestructible? Baki stopped him right in his tracks and informed him how Pickle dragged him back like he was some sort of commodity. There is no greater shame to a fighter than this right here. Elsewhere, Yujiro went to talk to Tokugawa, who was complaining about the consistent losses his fighters endured. Even so, Yujiro had full faith in Baki since he possessed the Hanma blood, and ended the conversation with his signature flex. Baki, on the other hand, was sitting in the arena gauging Pickle's power. This looked like the Wild Wild West in a way. Then Baki decided to provoke the monster and unleash a fury of strikes upon him. His strikes were actually injuring him, and for the first time in a long time, Pickle was actually on the defensive. Just then, Pickle went up to the air and decided to test their physical endurance. After falling from 100 feet, Baki was incapacitated. His body felt completely emaciated, and he was barely able to breathe or move. It felt like he was being crushed, and everyone saw how much he was suffering. It was obvious he was in grave pain, and even Pickle saw that. However, Baki screamed at him to fight back. Since his pride was wounded, even so, the beast started toying with him. This was blatant disrespect, to be honest. Baki wasn't about to let that slide and jumped from the same height again. What was he trying to prove? Despite the suicidal jump, Baki seemed like he was ready for another round. He struck with such speed and precision that Pickle was unable to fathom where the attack came from. He tried getting up but fell once again. Retsu tried explaining the situation to the others. Baki's strike was so accurate, he barely grazed the chin, rocking the brain with a shockwave. This strike kept on vibrating Pickle's brain, which led him to losing his motor functions. What an ingenious move from Baki. How is he able to move, though? Pickle kept on remembering all the monsters he fought, and tried comparing them to these tiny humans with resolve of steel. Baki was breathing heavily, and decided to change his style of fighting. Retsu was shocked, and upon landing his whip strike, Pickle was in agonizing pain. This pain was something equivalent to having your skin peeled off. Pickle was crying for dear help, and was unable to defend these strikes. Just then, he held his famous pose and was ready to end things once and for all. However, Baki started posing like kung fu animals. Mustering his spirit animal, he finally manifested the inner Triceratops within him. Even a T-Rex? How is this even possible? Baki accomplished the impossible by combining several dinosaurs into one, terrifying both Retsu and Pickle. What ensued was a brutal beatdown, led by a tiny giant capable of massive destruction. Even so, Pickle launched at him with all his might, and was surprisingly sent flying into the stands. What an unprecedented turn of events. They were all shocked by this outcome, and Hanayama tried explaining what happened. All this seems like a documentary, to be honest, or reality television even. Just then, Baki started pissing in the arena to signify his dominance. What is he, a canine or something? He then walked up to Pickle looking for a head-on battle, but was taught a brutal lesson. Even so, he kept on blocking his attacks, and this reminded him of Olivia and Yujiro, the two strongest people he knows, but now, Pickle was challenging him to the limit. Baki suddenly tapped into his true potential and started moving like a butterfly. Barely dodging the attacks by the skin of his teeth, he managed to dance his way through. Pickle was unable to lay a finger on Baki, and was starting to feel frustrated. And that's when he got his balls rocked, forcing him to roll on the ground. Pickle got up, but this time it was a fight to the death. It was obvious he transformed into his final form. Is the human body even capable of doing that? His aura intensified, and his bloodlust was quite fierce. Retsu could not believe his eyes, and even compared him to modern weapons. Surprisingly, Baki was keeping up with his final form. He explained how martial arts have evolved humans' ability to defend itself against predators, and that was exactly what he proved to him. From fighting gigantic monsters to battling flawless humans, Pickle was dumbfounded. Nothing he did was able to get through, and Retsu pictured this fight similar to a boxing fight, in which speed and technique will always triumph. Pickle was cornered and was unable to fathom what was going around him. Baki had turned into a monster, however. His stamina ran out, causing him to faint on the spot. Wait a minute. Did Baki really lose? Pickle managed to get up and honor the amazing battle they both had. Baki then congratulated and welcomed him to the family. Elsewhere, Yujiro was discussing matters with the current president. Wait a minute. Is that Barack Obama? How powerful is Yujiro to have the president cowering in his boots? Is this man a reincarnation of the devil? As usual, Yujiro had to flex a bit before leaving things. Typical Ogre. Meanwhile, Pickle was in the hospital trying to recover, while the whole world was discussing whether to put him back or allow him to continue living. The world was split into two groups, and after everyone voted, the final verdict was announced. Pickle was to return back to hibernation, however. Defiance runs deep within the human veins, and Pickle ran away like a real G. Baki, however, was getting checked up. Was it to analyze whether he was human or whether he suffered any damages? You can't really tell with fighters nowadays. The doctor called in his accomplice to show him Baki's brain. Behold, the demonic brain of the Hanma family. Something even modern science can't explain. They were raving on and on about how amazing this discovery was, while Tokyo was being overrun by rodents due to Baki's aura. Meanwhile, his EX was remembering of the time she saw Ali Jr. getting whooped. Despite being Baki's girlfriend, she went against his back to secretly conspire with his opponent. What a pathetic display of affection from a weakling. Even so, Baki continued to date her, since he had no idea of the betrayal. Also, she was the one who took his innocence. Baki was then approached by a strange-looking man in an alley. He He took him to grab some coffee and discuss the upcoming fight with his father. Baki was still hell-bent on revenge and went down memory lane of the time his mother met Yujiro. He was the undisputed champion at the time and acted like a mafia boss. After giving birth to Baki, she trained him to the limit in order to receive Yujiro's praise. As a result, she shunned her own son and was later crushed by her own husband. The old man he was discussing matters with used to be their old butler and continued to encourage Baki to fight his father and avenge his mother. Talk about a motivational speech. Someone give this man a mic. Elsewhere, the two heavyweights squared up to prove once and for all who the strongest man in the world is. Was it the demon Yujiro or the tank Olivia? Yujiro managed to launch him in the air, and upon engaging in a grappling contest, it was obvious Olivia was no match for the devil. Tokugawa, on the other hand, was discussing matters of the upcoming fight. This guy was so rich, he measured his money in weight, rather than numbers. That's next level right here. It seems these men were politicians and were defiant on allowing the fight to continue. One of them started telling tales of Yujiro's triumph, and this caused the other two to cower in their boots. He showed them a video of the Ogre and continued to treat him as a mythical legend, someone even stronger than Achilles and Zeus, someone far stronger than armies and empires. That's Yujiro Hanma for you. Meanwhile, Stridham was training his cadets on the art of fighting and how battle was never fair. Real fighting meant life or death. He then proceeded to gear up in preparation of Yujiro's arrival. It seems Stridham was ready to kill the Ogre once and for all. Every year, they held this battle, and every year it was the same outcome. Now that Stridham failed, Baki was the only one remaining who could achieve this impossible feat. To defeat the strongest being in existence was no easy feat. Yujiro, however, was receiving a mouthful from Tokugawa until his aura forced him to collapse. While he was walking in the street, he felt like there was nothing more life could offer him. Tokugawa, however, was in the hospital trying to recover. Meanwhile, the current boxing champ was being interviewed by the press and showing off his cool moves when he noticed the inflated punching bag. After hearing of Retsu's accomplishment, he insisted on sparring with the kung fu master, a decision he will surely regret. The champ kept on provoking him, and Retsu decided to shut him up and prove the dominance of Shaolin. As soon as the match began, the champ was knocked down in one blow. I told you he'd later regret it. The coach then asked Retsu what he was doing here, and the champ officially accepted his defeat. Katsumi, on the other hand, was still practicing his secret move when Baki interrupted him. Did this man really climb all the way up? What happened to the stairs? Katsumi tried explaining how he wanted to hone his body like a sword and started playing soccer with a plastic bag. These guys are something else. He was then told of Retsu's recent shenanigans. The old kung fu geezer wanted to test his skills in the boxing ring and make a name for himself on the grandest stage of them all. The following day, the coach told him to gear up for a sparring and pit him up against a military veteran. Retsu wore his headgear and his opponent was itching to get into a fight. This guy was no joke. Retsu, however, wasn't impressed and broke his fist with his skull. Everyone was left shocked, and he ended things by fracturing his shoulder. Damn, that was tough. Elsewhere, Baki was asking Stridham to set up a meet with his dad, since these two were considered national threats and must be closely monitored. Yujiro did not take this news lightly. Elsewhere, the President of the United States, the copycat Barack Obama, met up with the Japanese authorities to talk about Yujiro and Baki. The president informed them how Baki once kidnapped the old ruler and was no joke when it came down to it. He then took out the diamond which Yujiro crushed, and the devil appeared before them after having dispatched the armed guards. All of the security guards were completely neutralized, and the politicians were shaking like little babies. He then crushed the diamond into fine particles and had the president recite his vow like a nursery rhyme. So this is how the devil acts. I figured as much. Meanwhile, Retsu was practicing as usual, while his coach was looking for a worthy sparring partner. Just then, a man named Kaiser walked in and started complimenting Retsu's physique. This motivated the old geezer to demonstrate his kung fu prowess by punching through his gloves. I won't lie, that was actually awesome. It required extreme precision and speed. Kaiser was apparently a matchmaker and made Retsu an offer he couldn't refuse, the chance to fight monsters such as himself. It's all for the glory, I suppose. Same thing with Baki, who has been training non-stop and hallucinating his father. Is revenge the only desire pushing him forward? He then noticed a grasshopper and started complimenting its abilities. Had the grasshopper been bigger, it would have been unstoppable. Elsewhere, Kaiser and Retsu made it to the United States. The place looked like Vegas, and Retsu was not impressed at all. They went to watch a match, and Kaiser leaped into the ring to declare Retsu's entrance into the boxing world. He then thanked Retsu for having his back, while the former world champion started belittling Retsu and his tiny stature. After all, these two were in a different weight class, and there's no way this fight was be approved. However, the Kung Fu master demonstrated his skills by demolishing the bricks. As such, the press started eating up the entire story and were in favor of the fight. They kept on bombarding Retsu with questions until Kaiser gave him some slack. Back at the hotel, his coach was scolding his efforts, considering it a disrespect to the world of boxing. As such, he felt the need to punch his face, but ended up smashing his hand as a result. Now that's raw power. It was finally time for the showdown, and our boy walked in feeling fresh. Kaiser announced the exhibition, and the world champ started using intimidation tactics. As soon as the battle started, Retsu held his position and told the ref to mind his own business. He then countered the champ and dealt the winning blow in an instant. Well, that was easy money. Who knew Retsu had that business mentality in him? Elsewhere, Baki felt this strange aura and knew immediately who came to visit him, the strongest creature on the planet, Yujiro Hanma, sitting down to drink coffee with his son. This is a moment we've never expected to happen. How unusual is this? Well, Yujiro had to tear the table apart before leaving. Can't this man have a normal conversation? What a ferocious monster. Afterward, Baki was approached by a random hooligan looking to fight him, but things ended before they even began. And it seems Hanayama set him up for failure. Baki was way too strong. The guy went in again, but Baki kept on beating him to a pulp. Elsewhere, Retsu was watching another boxing match and gauging his next opponent. I doubt there is anyone in the United States capable of being Retsu, to be honest. Just then, a guy who looked like Muhammad Ali came in and warned Retsu not to fight with his next opponent since he believed Retsu would lose. Even so, our Kung Fu master didn't care and went into the ring to prove to everyone why Kung boxing is child's play compared to martial arts. As soon as the battle began, Retsu was being rattled left and right. He even got knocked out and started contemplating his life. He was comparing this punch to that of Baki and Pickle. Wait a minute, how is that even possible? After realizing the concept behind it, he decided to counter his attacks. Meanwhile, Baki was still being nagged to fight. Despite his reluctance, he still knocked him out cold, but the creep caught him with a sucker punch like a wimp and continued to toss him around. Where did all this power come from? Retsu, however, was in a state of delusion. The last time he felt like this was when his master knocked him out. He was taught to keep a cool head and tried using the trick his master showed him. Retsu kept on spinning and avoiding his attacks until he was finally caught. Baki, however, decided to bring his A-game and end the battle once and for all. Even then, the guy refused to give up and kept on getting back up. Baki was confused why he was so adamant and broke his fists with his skull. What a headbutt! He even broke his legs. At this point, Baki was almost ready to kill this man on the spot since he refused to take no for an answer. Baki sprung at him and demolished his hands yet again, while Retsu was getting his ass handed to him. He kept on watching flashbacks, and this time, it seemed like he was done for the count. Wait a minute, did he seriously get back up? What is this guy made of? Luckily, he was saved by the bell, and the coach told him to try his best. Retsu was a completely different person now, and used his experience to land clean blows. Everyone was shocked to the core, since they expected Retsu to lose on the first round, but this was unprecedented, since he was actually dominating. He was jumping around, turning this into a dirty fight. They both gave it their all, and neither one of them backed down. What an amazing exhibition. In the end, Retsu caught him dead center and immobilized him with a single strike. That was phenomenal, to say the least. Elsewhere, Hanayama congratulated his goon for giving Baki a run for his money, and this entire fight was meant to jumpstart Baki's animalistic nature. What was Hanayama actually thinking, though? And why did he decide to pull of this stunt? Meanwhile, Yujiro was discussing with Stridum about his fight with Baki, and things were starting to intensify. Even Tokugawa was in on it and wanted to make it a main event. Imagine all the money that could be made. This was truly a fight of the ages. Yujiro then went on to discuss matters with Orochi. This guy seems hell-bent on crushing his own son. Since when did Yujiro go soft on us all of a sudden? Orochi motivated him while Shibukawa tried testing Baki's reflexes and reaction. He then went on to discourage Baki from fighting, since there was no way he's beating the unstoppable monster. Baki brushed him off and decided to prepare dinner. His father walked in, and this seemed like a wholesome reunion. For two guys who are about to decimate one another, they sure look peacefully quiet. Imagine if the fight started then and there, it wouldn't be surprising, given their savage nature. Once all was said and done, Baki asked him to do the dishes, and Yujiro agreed if he could beat him at rock, paper, and scissors. Ironically, Baki won, but Yujiro's scissors was capable of defeating Baki's rock. I guess rules don't apply to Yujiro, huh? He then taught the military a lesson and walked off. The following day, Baki went to a fancy hotel and was able to see the entire city from up there. Yujiro came looking sleek and criticized his son for looking like a hobo. They sat down and enjoyed the finest cuisine Japan could offer. For a moment you'd think these two had a good relationship, until Yujiro decided to throw a hissy fit, of course. His anger rumbled the city, and Yujiro was ready to go all out. He actually tried punching him out and was trying to kill him. Yujiro was throwing him around and disciplining him like a spoiled little brat. Afterward, he pushed him out of the window, and they both plummeted to the ground. Are these guys even human? Yujiro got up unscathed and threw Baki to the ground. Baki used the opportunity to land a surprise attack and felt like he was hitting a cliff. Yujiro's aura was mad crazy, and Baki wasn't willing to give in that easily. Despite being brutally struck, Baki wasn't seriously injured or anything. Just then, Yujiro used the whip strike and inflicted excruciating pain upon Baki. That must hurt like a mofo. Fortunately, Baki reciprocated, but Yujiro showed no emotion since he flexed every muscle fiber in his body, allowing him to cancel out the pain. Wait a minute. What kind of logic is this? The military dropped down in hopes of stopping these two, while Baki was being cheered on by Tokugawa, who cleared out the entire block. Before he could say another word, he was blasted away and mocked by his bully of a father. Yujiro declared that the last man standing will be declared the winner. So basically, a battle of endurance and might. This was going to be a real test for Baki. Baki then loosened his entire body, allowing him to unleash himself like a Russian torpedo. They broke through the walls, and Baki sent his father flying for the first time in his life. What an amazing exhibition from the tiny monster. Yujiro was super impressed, but it wasn't sufficient to hold him down. Just then, Yujiro noticed an entire crowd gathered to watch their beef. Are they trying to turn this into a spectacle? Even the news were broadcasting this event. Aren't they taking this a bit too far? The internet was going wild, and the Hanma family was actually going viral. This upset Yujiro, who was used to the anonymity. Now his secret was finally revealed. The devil was announced to the public. Baki used this opportunity to tantalize him and land critical strikes. Orochi came to witness the brawl, and Yujiro was finally ready to take things seriously. Baki turned liquid and tried going at it, but was caught with a counter out of nowhere. Yujiro continued to pummel his son, while Orochi was secretly envious of their relationship. Baki wasn't willing to give in that easily, and his determination was equal to that of a boxer at his peak. No matter how hard he tried, Yujiro wasn't budging an inch, and Baki decided to take on his Triceratops pose. Pickle was looking on in excitement as Baki harnessed his old rivals. Everyone present was able to see this gigantic figure, and this reminded Yujiro of his childhood when he contemplated how strong dinosaurs actually were. His dream was almost accomplished when he faced the Triceratops head-on. What ensued was an actual bloodbath. Yujiro tried downplaying his style and reciprocated with poses of his own. His aura reverberated around the streets as he unleashed his demon back. The true source of his power. This is starting to feel like a Dragon Ball franchise. Was this his Super Saiyan transformation? Despite his impressive show of power, Baki was able to knock him down with a single speedy punch. Even Orochi was baffled. In a split second, he was able to achieve the impossible. Yujiro then asked him to come over, since he wanted to pat his head. Baki's heart started beating like crazy, and he even shed tears. It was an emotional moment for him, being praised by his father. For the first time in his life, he felt recognized. Suddenly, Yujiro grabbed him from the side and started squashing him. He then continued to pat him on the head, followed by spinning him around and kicking him into oblivion. Soon after, his brain lit up and Baki decided to succumb. However, his grandfather's spirit showed up and started chuckling at his weakness. Tokugawa started narrating the story of Yujiro, the father of Yujiro. Upon seeing him, Yujiro remembered a technique he taught him and started using Baki as a human nunchucks. What the hell is going on here? Are these two really father and son? With a quick 1-2, he was suddenly dominating the flow of battle. Despite the beating he received, Yujiro wasn't finished and wanted more. Did Baki fully evolve? However, Yujiro had enough of this nonsense and wanted to bring an end to this wonderful nightmare. He told Baki to attack him all his might, and finally, they decided to turn this into a brawl. A test of strength and a test of endurance. The crowd was lit, and the finale was upon us. The flurry of strikes left everyone in utter shock, and everyone across the country was tuned in. This was beyond spectacular. It was truly legendary. Their fists spoke volumes, and finally, Yujiro gave Baki a solid hug, crushing him in the same manner as his mother. He had several fractures across his body and was severely injured. Yujiro really put a number on him, huh? Suddenly, Baki's spirit launched at him, indicating his fighting spirit. They then sat down and started eating an imaginary meal. Did all the fighting rock their brain or something? Like father, like son, I suppose. Well, that's all for this recap of Baki, the strongest son in the world. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it, and ask that you share this video across. Let us know in the comments what anime you want us to cover next. Until next time, stay true.